Welcome back to Let's Talk Race in Ireland. I'm your host, Harrison Paul, and today we got a lot of topics on our plate. We got the tragic situation of Christopher Kapassa, and I actually wanted to throw in a little bit of Jonathan Majors today. So I tried to avoid it, but you know, it's Black Endeavor, so it's race relations, so it was almost impossible for me to stay away from it. But I'll start this video with the tragic loss of a young boy who was 13 years old when he passed. His name is um, Christopher Kapessa. I'm not sure what part of Africa he's from, but it's a situation where this young boy was out swimming with a bunch of boys and friends and girls, boys, and he was pushed in the water. When he was pushed in the water, of course, didn't make it out. He drowned. This was 2019.
You left the scene just like that, no investigation, no nothing. You were so quick to deem it to be a tragic accident. There was just numerous negligence from the police's part.
This is where Christopher drowned on the 1st of July last year. At the time, police told his mum that he'd slipped. Within just 24 hours, they declared his death a tragic accident and said there were no suspicious circumstances. Now, in a letter to his mother, the CPS say there's clear evidence that Christopher was pushed.
They had a biased view of me as a black single mother living in the valleys. For example, rather than looking for Christopher, they closed the investigation within 24 hours. The police did not investigate the pattern of racism suffered by Christopher and the family.
I think what's happened, why it's brought up back in the news, I think recently the coroner has actually declared it. They declared the death. He was pushed, but it was a prank. So basically it was a mistake. And of course the kid is not going to be charged now because of that. And instantly when I heard the story, it just brought back a flood of memories to a situation that took place in my life when I was growing up, and I thought that this would be the perfect time for me to actually discuss the situation and discuss a lot of things regarding the situation. So before I get into that, I just want to first of all play the video with Christopher Kapessa, one of his friends who was there. And I'm going to move off of this. This is what's going to kind of start me off.
It was just supposed to be like a nice day out with a group of friends, and then obviously he got pushed in. Not by, like, he wasn't pushed in any malice. It was just, as kids do, joking, pranking. And then obviously that all happened, and then I think I was the last to jump in because it's obviously scary, but you could see he was like giving up and he couldn't try anymore. So then, because he was going slower and slower, and then I jumped in, and then when I jumped in, he went under, and I tried going under and looking from underneath the water, but obviously the water was just pitch black and green and freezing, and it was so deep and I just couldn't go no more. I was really scared, but I was more sad that I couldn't save him, which is obviously that anyone would say that, but I don't know, it was just always like this could have happened, that could have happened, if I had done this, if I had done that. He was a shining star. He'd walk in a room and I don't know, everyone would be laughing, like a proper joker. He was kind and funny, and he was really good at football.
You know, earlier today when I was actually investigating for my video the situation, it was actually so difficult for me to watch that I actually had to kind of, once I knew what I was going to say, I decided that, look, I know what I'm going to say, I don't want to, but usually I would continue to dig to get loads of information. But this actually hurt so much that I couldn't continue on, because it just hurt. It really hit me in a place. So I'm going to talk about a situation and how I remember it growing up. This is how I interpreted everything, and how I've interpreted it even now as I grow older and as I reminisce on it. But what was fantastic is I think, and I know a lot of us interpreted it this way. The guys who were friends of this black boy, who was our friend, we did interpret it that way on that day, because it's something we all knew. I guess as you get older, you feel like, life is about integrating, life is about getting on with it. And I think we actually became a little bit desensitized to it. And I'm going to get to Jonathan Major's part. I want to add into that. But one thing I noticed about this clip that really struck me was, did you notice that young girl's ability to make sure she underlined that it was a joke? It wasn't, it was just, yeah. And I might replay it here. I will replay it, actually.
It was just supposed to be like a nice day out with a group of friends, and then obviously he got pushed in. Not by, like, he wasn't pushed in any malice. It was just...
Wasn't any malice. She was very careful to protect her own. And I yes, the people who want to be colorblind and not multicultural, I'm about to hit you with some real life here. So yeah, if you don't like real life, you may as well just flick off this channel at this moment, because I'm about to talk real life talk. It is one thing that we knew, as I'm not going to even name any names and say this story to protect people's privacy. We knew, although we were able to integrate with people, although we were able to make friends with people, although we always knew, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty moments, who will have your back. Now, a lot of black people will dispute this moment and say, I've had white people have my back. But this is deeper than having someone's back. This is like an understanding of what someone goes through. Let me start here. I've got someone's place. Okay, so I was watching a documentary the other night, movie night, with my lady, and we were watching a documentary, and it was about a lady called America's Nightmare. It's about a lady who was sexually assaulted, and it happened. The perpetrator was such a kind of a weird guy that he put goggles on her or just did different stuff that were so weird that when she actually went to report the story, she wasn't believed. Now you can only imagine. So this is not in the time of Me Too. This is in the time where, we can all admit women probably had a tough time being believed in a system that wasn't very much sexist in many ways. So she struggled for about 6 months trying to be believed in her story. And so this guy who was doing this, he hadn't only done it to her, he had done it to a few people. And so in different towns. So he had, not even towns, states. So he did it in a different state. And I think they caught him. Now, when they caught him, whatever, but they didn't know who else he had done it to, right? They just thought that this guy has done this crime that's in front of us right now. And one of the police officers was a woman, and she was there. And she found a blonde strand of hair in the boot of his car, along with goggles. So she had an idea, like, there's more girls, there's more than just this situation. So when everyone let it go, by the way, she wasn't believed. I think I said that already. The FBI didn't believe her. Now, of the other state, and the other girl that it happened to in a different state, I think it was in California. Now, this woman who's in a different state, dealing with a completely different case, just from the strand of hair, had this unction that it's happened to somebody else. And I need to find out. So every officer was like, yeah, it's done. That's it. Case closed. We got the guy for this thing, whatever. But for that tiny piece of strand of hair, she was like, I need to know. I need to thoroughly do this. And this woman stayed up at night. Literally stayed up day and night. The documentary shows, you know, she just couldn't rest. She was research, you know, trying to, because obviously he used different names, trying to find them. And eventually, she gets to one of his cases, to a girl who was almost about to be prosecuted for quote unquote lying. And she gets her just in time within the 6 months. Now, this girl's life was ruined, essentially, the white girl. Her life was ruined because no one believed her. And people were apparently going on her on Facebook, you're disgusting for making up. They were comparing her to Gone Girl. If anybody watched the movie, I've not watched it, but they compared it to the fact that a girl who faked a sexual assault in order to get her husband back or something crazy like that. But what that is, a huge amount of things that pointed out to me. What that taught her was, first of all, inspired me because there were people who were like viciously messaging her, like, you disgusting piece of blah, 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 you disgusting, da, 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 all these things. And it inspired me. I'm going to just give you it. Like, not everyone's going to believe what you know in your spirit, what you know in your gut. So that's just a side note to inspire anybody who does fight for Black rights and who's often made feel like you're overreacting or making a big deal out of everything. You know, little did she know, she knew the truth in her gut, and the truth came out at the end of the day. But the police officer who went, she's a woman, she could not sleep. When the men could sleep, she couldn't sleep. Why? Because as a woman, she innately had this ability to say, I'm like, there's another woman out there. Didn't even know if the woman was not believed or whatever. I just know there's another woman out there. I want to know, is the woman killed? Is she whatever? I just need to know where this strand of hair came from. And there's an innate ability to understand the plight of, you know, there's the plight of white women. Let's put it like that, right? Then there's a worse plight, which is Black women. There's a worse plight, worse plight than Black men, and even worse plight, Black women. I won't even put my Black plight as worse as Black women plight. Although the Black plight it's definitely something in itself, but I'm going to respect their plight. Watch what I'm doing there for anybody who's ignorant. And I can also respect and know that the female plight is certainly, the white female plight is certainly not of the Black woman's plight. So when I talk about this story and I talk about this innate ability that they had to protect that boy. And I'm going to come out and say it when I'm talking about Christopher Kapessa. You know, how she knew, like, to put it. It just reminded me of the story and how I remember that story, like, which happened in my life, in my childhood. It's like, a friend of mine got pushed in the water. And I'll never forget this because it's such a spooky day. The day before, we were all together, all of us as friends. And we were literally, like, we never always got all together. But on that day, we just so happened to all be together. And we were Black boys who lived across. And we used to have this chat, Facebook chat. And I won't say the name of the Facebook chat, but we had this chat. And it connected us from, like, different kind of cities and different towns nearby. And the day before, which was spooky, we actually spoke about, oh man, we can't swim. We made jokes about how we couldn't swim. And it was like one of those days that we were just so happy, like we never always got to be all connected. And then the next day we were going to meet up again because we enjoyed that day so much. But I had a show, and a few of us, you know, who had a show. And so I couldn't be there. And you know, I remember when I arrived at the scene the next day, I get a call. I'm going to just use a fake name. Andrew, someone tells me, Andrew drowned, man. I'm like, what? Pull up there as fast as I could. Fortunate enough, I was able to get a lift. I got there. And the minute I get there, I'm going to now give another fake name to protect the person. Amy runs up to me. And I remember now, this person, I want to describe this person to. This person is, bear in mind, Andrew went with all white boys. So Andrew had, like, as most of us had, you know, when you grew up, you probably grew up in a council estate where it had mostly majority black boys who were probably, you know what I mean? You lived near, and then you had your school, your friends and white boys friends from school. Forgive me, I'm trying my best to wiggle around the story to protect myself legally. So he was with those friends, you know, and I will rightfully say the Plan B friends. I have to say that. I have to put that in. And if anybody wants to stick around and watch, I'll tell you why I call them the Plan B friends. You know. And we're all grown-ups now, so we can talk properly. Listen, so I show up to the scene, and like I said, Amy, who was a white girl, ran to me. She's one of those innocent people who are just like, you know, like those people who are like really innocent and really, and I just want to use the term innocent, pure and innocent, like they're just the type of person to say what everyone's thinking, but not in a mean way, in a genuine way. You know what I mean? Like just to say what everyone's thinking. And I'll never forget when I arrived there, and they knew we were his brothers. We knew that. They knew, everyone in that place knew that we were his brothers. It was factual. So I think a few of us, 1 or 2 or 3 of us, of his brothers, pulled up, and Amy tells me, she pushed Andrew. Apparently Andrew was joking around with other people and was joking around with people, and as a joke back, that person pushed Andrew into the water. And this girl, Amy, came to me and just told me. And I'll never forget, obviously at that point I'm not in my right mind because I'm watching my friend, because he's right like there being pumped, you know. And I can't believe what I'm watching, you know. When you see death in your front door, you know, of course it's always something that happens elsewhere. So you're actually seeing your bro being pumped. You think it's going to be okay. You're just waiting for for it to blow over. But still, as she came and said that, people heard her report that to me and were quick to be like, no, it didn't happen like that. It was an accident. It was acting ready to protect in that moment. It's an accident. And this is what I talk about, down to the nitty gritty. Like the instinctual ability to see something for, now I'm not equating this to the police officer, by the way. It's a different topic. I'll put the police officer back in a second. And the ability to just protect their own. God help me with this today. And why I'm saying that, I'm just going to just put this footnote in, although I wanted to make my way around this. Same with Christopher Kapessa here. I know if that was me or any other black boy, I know I would have done time. I know I would. I don't care if it was an accident. I can't tell you how much things I did in my life that were accidents to white boys that I paid for the teacher, for whatever. When you're in a black skin, I'm telling you this, factual black boys, you know it. Your wrong is wronger. Your dirt is dirtier. That's why they say, oh, Africans are corrupt. You know, the leaders in Africa corrupt. Because people actually believe that the corruption in Africa is dirtier than the European corruption. As if Donald Trump is not corrupt. as if Boris Johnson is not corrupt, as if the Tory party, as if any politician in Europe is not corrupt. But we've been made believe that black dirt is dirtier. And as a black person, you know you don't have 9 lives like a white boy. You know you don't have 9 lives like a white boy. I know if that was me that day, everyone would say, oh, and if it was a white girl that died in the water, even if I joke put, I was doing time. Nobody would have said, there probably been 1 or 2 shorties, white shorties, I'd give them that, who probably would have said, I don't think he meant it. But they would have been overpowered by the guys. Nah, and then there would have been some girls who would have been trying to be proper and said, nah, he didn't mean it. It's still, we have to do the right thing. I know a black boy wouldn't have made it out of that situation uncharged. I know that. You cannot tell me otherwise. And any black person watching this video, any white person that has a problem with it, send this to your black friend and watch this video. Say, would you? You know you would have not been. You know it's very scarce. And I'm only talking about the people who are present, the young people who are present. Let's not talk about the law. The law is already going to see that child is an adult. We have it written all over history. Don't even talk about the law. Don't even talk about the people in the system. Don't even talk about the people in the system. You're going to jail, black boy. You're going to jail, black boy. Don't care if you cry, you said it's an accident. I have so much incidents I remember in my life. I cried. I didn't mean it's an accident. And people still gave me. People were making sure that that white girl didn't feel guilt. I remember this tenacious effort to make her not feel the guilt for pushing Andrew. And this is what I'm talking about. White people give each other those lives. We have to give ourselves 9 lives. That's when you see me why I do this page. I'm trying to indoctrinate people how to give each other as much. We have internalized our oppressions. We've internalized our short change of chances. So we give that to the next Negro. But you know why a person like Donald Trump can go back into power despite what he did to an opposite race? Because at the end of the day, few white people stand on high morals when it comes to, I had close friends of mine. I remember, that's why I'm telling you, I wrote this in my book as well. Whenever a white person sees racism, oh, that's disgusting. And you can just tell when you read it, surface based. Oh, that racism, oh, I hate that. But in fairness to them, they were raised in a society that is taught to take it. The same way that Irish girl recently was murdered. And the way the country, when she was on the jog, the country rallied that. Because they have this self-determination, not one of our own. I can tell you if that was a black Nigerian girl with nappy hair, they wouldn't have rallied it for that long. They wouldn't have rallied it for that long. They rallied that situation. And so you should. But black people, because we are so in love with assimilation, we forget that we're so caught up in what they want us to be, where I'm trying to indoctrinate people that remember to love yourself the same way they love themselves. Let me get back to the story. So he's pushed. It's pumping him. And I remember me and all my friends at that time, we all went home. We knew already. I remember telling one of my friends, I'm not going to name him, I remember telling one of my friends, because I hadn't seen him, he was away at a football match. And I told him, I was crying my eyes, I said, yo, because I think he'd heard on the phone. Yeah, and I remember I'll never forget, he was coming down the street and I saw him. And I go, bro. So every time I seen a new one of my friends, I was just crying like, bro, one of us is that gone now. And the first thing he said, I can't repeat it because it was a cuss word, but he said, them white boys. People are going to stand up here today and say that we knew they're not gonna die for you like your brethren will die for you. I'm sorry. Because This is why I bring that officer lady in. There's a level of understanding of the plight of a black person that you know. And this is why I'm now going to bring in the Jonathan Majors. I don't want to talk about what happened in that relationship. Thank God she's alive. And by the looks of that situation, she didn't make the phone call while she was in danger. She made the phone call or the report afterwards. Now, I'm not telling you what is right and what is wrong. No, please, I repeat, I'm not telling you what is right and what is wrong for her to do. I'm telling you the difference between a white and a black. A black woman, 9 times out of 10, she knows what that phone call means. Oh, please, oh my God. She knows what that phone call means. She's going to think of every avenue. All right, I'm going to dump him. Before she does, she's going to dump you. She's probably going to block you off everything. She's probably never going to see you again. But innately, she knows this life is already rigged against a black man. Why the heck am I calling the police for? And a successful black man who's made his way to Marvel Studios. Please, look, I'm not saying what happened or what did not happen in the house. Don't twist my words. I'm just differentiating how a black woman would have behaved and how a white woman would have behaved. And where that stems from, because this is the facts of life. Life is not a fairy tale. A black woman has grown up seeing her mama, her dada being discriminated by the system. So when she sees her black boyfriend, even if they're going through hell or a bad situation, if she can help it, she'll break up with him before she calls the cops. And she'll block him and forget about him before she calls. Because a black woman understands black men don't make it to Marvel. Black men are trying to come out the gutter. You know, like when Americans went to the moon and said, this is one step from mankind, some small step from mankind, or whatever Neil Armstrong said. It's like, as a black person, you understand it's a small step for, and my mom has stories like this as well. Black women have stories, even when we talk about the fact of like how white women can keep their child away from a black man. It's not really a white woman thing. Or really deranged black woman. Because real black women who've got a little bit of sense in their head, despite what went on, they know we've already got a generational curse we're trying to destroy with absentee fathers that stemmed from colonialism. Yes, absentee fathers stem from colonialism. When they broke the family up, when one family had to live on the other side to work for the white man, and another, and his mother, over time, our family began to be defragmented. After all the situations, you have to read about it. But it's when I read about it, I understand. It's like, not just, don't just look at us and say, black fathers, why they like this? Why? It has a historical reason as to why they're like that. So asking why most people in Africa are really, really dark-skinned, because the way life happened, sun beats down on them. So when you understand that, oh, like, why are black people predominantly violent? Well, I'm going to get into another video, but there's a reason from that. Not excusing it, but there's a reason. It's historical reasons. But when a black woman, she knows a black man in Marvel, that's one big step for mankind. She'll probably just tell you, Negro, get out of my house. Negro, I'm never going to see you again. Negro, don't like what you did. And please hear me. This is not about what is right or what is wrong. Because the main matter of the fact is, I'm talking for a black man. He has that ability to bounce back, to learn from his mistakes and bounce back. And as a black woman, you first hope for that. Because you have this innate understanding of a world that is rigged against us. A world that is waiting to say, aha, I knew you blacks do this. So you have that more of a, am I really going to pick up the phone and talk to this white man about a black man and give them exactly what they wanted to hear? When I know that he could turn his life around, but that's going to stay in his life forever. We come from different paths, different walks of life. I'm sorry, you guys want life to be a fairy tale. But here's a real moment, a child, 2019. Innately, them boys, if he was a black boy, hear where I'm going at this, please. If he was a black boy and he pushed something, right now Christopher Kapessa will be drawing time. If my friend who I was talking about, Andrew, had pushed that white girl and I showed up, they would have been calling me to call my friend from the police station. I remember one time when I was growing up, I got in a fight with some boys. These boys were older than me, huh? Like, you could clearly tell they were like 14, 15. Never forget. And I was like 12, 11. And I remember we were all playing football together. These were like the older boys. You know when you play football, older boys. And we got into it. And I started then fighting this boy, boxing him. Anyway, because when I jumped on top of him, there was like stones on the floor and he got scratches all on his back. His mother goes to the police. And I get called in the police station, 12-year-old boy like me. And this tall boy, compared to this tiny short boy, there's no even empathy. We're like, by the looks of this doesn't look to me like this small boy went to bully this big boy. And I told him my version of the story. When you're black, you don't have 9 lives. So my thing is, I understand that you're doing the right thing because you felt like it was a prank. I can get into that too. These pranks you pull on black boys. These pranks that you only do to people you don't respect. These pranks you pull on black boys. But we won't talk about that. Fair enough. Don't think the boy intended for him to die. Maybe scare the life out of him, but not die. I can give him that. He didn't know all this would come from. I can give him that. Although I'm not saying it is, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He still gets the benefit of the doubt where a girl is sitting in an interview and she knows program. It was accident though. It wasn't purposeful. The same way when I showed up, that one naive girl said, yeah, it happened like this. Amy, everyone else no. And I remember that day I took to Facebook and we got into it with his white side of his group of friends. And we all got into it. We all got into a major dispute with an undertone about race. My point today is this, for anybody who's going to watch this and who's watching this. My point today is, had Andrew had pushed that little white girl, my friend would probably only be out now. We'd probably be saying, fresh out, brother. All visiting him right now. And every black boy on this, watching this right, you know that's a fact. Whether mistaken or not, you know that's a damn fact. There wouldn't have been as much people who stuck by. And these are the measurements. Small measurements. Because a lot of people can say, oh, I helped, I cried, I was sad, I pumped him, I put my hand to help him, I did this and I did that. It's fair enough. But these small measurements change life altogether. These small measurements you think that we complain about, these small measurements, when we go into for jobs, when we're looking for homes, when we're dealing with our day-to-day life, these small measurements, what seems small, but really they're not small because they're in crunch moments. If it's down about getting a black woman getting a role or a white woman getting a role, you're going to lose that role to a white woman, despite you being more qualified. These small measurements that seem small have a major effect. And what I'm trying to teach my people is to mirror that self-determination. I have study the white man and understand what makes him. Black people think it's because he's practical, how he makes the civilization go. And look at his leaders, look at his system, and the leaders in the system reflect the people. They'll get on with you. They'll have a cup of tea with you. But when it comes down to crunch moment, how many Irish people you know who are in Ireland who are going to cast their vote for a black man to go in there? What do I mean when I say that? Their level of self-determination. We have been indoctrinated to put white people first before ourselves. And that's why our countries do it. And that's why our nation does it. And that's why we Africans do it here in the diaspora. I watched a video recently how when black people get into offices or high jobs, and black woman was saying like, you want to connect with other black people when you get in high roles and high companies, but there's this level of like, a black person not trying to connect with you in that big role. It's like, once I go up, I'm trying to go white. I'm trying to go white as I go up. I'm trying to leave behind me the dark days. And I know there's certain people up there who may look at me different if I'm seen lounging around with other black people in the staff room. And I'm trying to go up. If we come together psychologically, we are way more dangerous than these petty spurts of individual success. Someone has a big supervisor role in a company, or someone has a big something small there, and we think black people have really moved along. Racism has really moved along. We are still at the mercy of the one who's giving us the opportunities. Look at China. They're at the mercy of absolutely nobody. Look at the Chinese. They're at the mercy of absolutely nobody. Because Chinese, they can come, they can connect white people, but they put themselves first. You know this. Everyone knows this. Just like the white man. So, just to round up everything, and even the Jonathan Majors, that girl who I talked about in the documentary, she had that innate ability to fight for something she understood as a woman, the plight of a woman. And a black woman has that innate ability, when I talk about the Jonathan Major evidence, to have more of a restless night, to understand what it feels like when you're, I asked my girl about, the whole thing of, let's say, the Me Too or women feeling afraid. And I had to be honest. I said, babe, do you guys exaggerate it a little bit or whatever? She goes, Harrison, you don't know what it feels like. It's a scary life. Feeling like if I'm caught at the wrong time, at the wrong place, I can be overpowered and I can be forced to sleep with someone I don't want to sleep with. It's almost like a fear that sits at the back of our minds. And when she explained it like that, whoa, again, me understanding something I don't experience, I don't know. Don't know what it feels like, because you know a man will overpower you. So it's this thing, that's why women are so, we don't feel safe. It's something, I asked her that question. I didn't understand it. But I encourage you, brother and sister, look out for yourself. Look out for one another. Because when it comes down to crunch time, your brother or sister is going to need a witness. And don't be so caught up in trying to climb the ladder into the white man's heart that you reject that innate ability that our little girl had that day to say, oh, and those people who were able to protect that girl, oh, mistake. Because they knew that we don't want to see a girl go away. There's this detachment. If my friend was involved, there would have been that detachment, like some of them not really getting. I don't know, when you're black, you see yourself like, oh my God, the system's eating us up. Like, that's why when all my friends, I'm gonna tell you, when we got back, when we were crying all as black boys, we were just saying, if one of us were there that day, only if one of us were there that day. Now you tell yourself, what does that mean? What do we understand as young teens? If one of us were there that day, what does that tell you? We understood this from young kids. If one of us were there that day, Only one of us. First question my dad asked me, I remember, where were you guys? He was only with his white friends. It's weird. And no one's, whose fault was it? No, they said, we told him, it's weird. Everyone gonna stand here today and act like, they don't know what I'm talking about. I'm keeping 100. I do not care what people think about. I do not care. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. I'm gonna do what I have to do. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'm on a mission for you.